So I'll also just run through a little bit of housekeeping because this is a super short session, 30 minutes. If you don't already follow any of these folks on LinkedIn, please start following them now. We can continue that conversation online if we can't answer questions here and maybe potentially outside. The other thing I want to go over, like when we're talking about a blueprint, that's an actionable strategy. So we're starting there, high level. If you don't have a plan, we're going to figure out and talk through like what that looks like. What money do you leave on the table? I want to start first though to make it as relevant as possible for you all. Tell me about there's a couple of things, a handful of things that you wish you knew before you opened doors. You excluded.
Sure, yeah. I haven't opened doors myself, but at Flowhub we've seen hundreds of retailers open their doors, and I think like the things that separate the folks who are successful is really just planning in advance. And so make sure that you've got your staff trained, you've got your SOPs, you've got everything tested, so that first day you're opening clean, that you're not running into hiccups on that first day. But really that like sort of preparation and training I think is really critical.
Sure.
So. Do not overhire because everyone thinks that because we came off when the industry first opened and people would have lines out their door and we thought I went and got rope and stanchion inside my dispensary thinking I'm going to have these lines, but it's become a saturated market at this point. Those days are pretty much over unless you're on a border and you're the only dispensary in the town. So I overhired because I thought I was gonna have lines out the door, and I didn't want to have, any mistakes. I didn't want, I wanted to make sure that, everything was running like a well-oiled machine. And what hurts you in that scenario is that when you find out you really only need half your staff, how are you gonna fire all these people? Now, thankfully, because when I opened my dispensary, this is when a lot of other ones, I was the 80th dispensary to open in the state. So now a lot of other dispensaries were opening. So I kind of got lucky that some of the staff members kind of did me a favor and were like, oh, I have a dispensary opening near my house. I want to be, closer or whatever. So that they kind of on their own went that way. So now I have 5 employees and I'm the 6th employee and I am a micro dispensary, so I'm only allowed 10. And the other thing is, you don't have to hire a cannabis vendor. You can hire any vendor. Like for instance, I ended up hiring a local contractor who's an LGBTQ owned business. He's the local contractor for all of the merchants in town. He does housing or whatever. He came under my construction budget. And that's why, because he was a local guy. He wasn't trying to take advantage of me as a cannabis business. So just know that. Where you do want somebody in the cannabis business is your accountant, because they need to know 280E, and your POS system, because they need to know metric. The last thing I just want to make a point of is make sure you have working capital. I think that's where my mistake was, because I'm independently funded. I own 100% equity of my business. And I ended up having to take a loan out for working capital, and you should make sure that you have at least working capital at minimum a year, maybe 3 years.
Well, you know what? It's so crazy. I think it's a common denominator, because I actually was going to say the same one about building your business to scale and not starting off big. But since I'll say something different, I'll say I think one of the most important things I could tell you as an entrepreneur is to know your business and be involved in it. I think you can hire really great managers or really great teams, but really being able to know what's going on with your business, to be able to impact it. If I do this, this happens. If everybody calls out sick, I can go run the store, et cetera, et cetera. I think it's so meaningful. So that would be some of the advice that I would give, that is really important for you to know your business yourself. And that also allows you to stay lean, like she was saying, because you really want to be able to, again, have the business be as lean as you can, so that you can scale up and build it from there. I found that to be really valuable.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything everybody said, but if I had to think of one thing that I would have done differently, is not focus on everything being 100%. Err on the side of action and go with 80, because you can always tweak things. But if you're trying to get to perfect, you will be disappointed. So that's kind of a high level insight that I'll share with you that I wish I had followed.
Absolutely, all great points. When we talk about opening doors, one of you mentioned that the expectation potentially, and I hear it a lot, is if you sell weed, they will come. That's not true. So as far as building brand awareness, even before doors open, of course, there's an effort once people have heard about you, but before doors open, what were you leveraging, what were you trying, what were you testing in order to have an awareness within the community of the customers who eventually would be your loyal customers?
Well, so I had the luxury of having the CBD shop in the same town where my dispensary opened. So I already got to test the market and build a loyalty customer base. So that helped me a lot. And, you know, I'm a big believer because my background's in PR and marketing and advertising. I believe in boots on the ground, getting out there and joining every chamber, every, you know, organization. And when you sponsor an event, you are physically there as well to shake hands and meet with people. Go out about town. Like, for instance, I did a branded coaster at the local Irish pub, which had a 20% off code. I'm talking to Cactus Charlie, the Mexican restaurant across the street, about doing a Cinco de Mayo event with them where they get if you spend $100, you get a $5 coupon to go and get, you know, an appetizer, $5 off. So, you know, doing collaborations with the local merchants in town goes a long way. The other thing, too, that I think even goes a longer way than that is go be a patron in all the restaurants and all the gift shops and everywhere that is in your community. And not only just walk in and introduce yourself, but buy something. Support their business. Even if it's a $5 thing, that goes a longer way because they take you more seriously, because they can see through it. If you're like, you walk in there, introduce yourself, and like, hey, support me, how can we work together or whatever, great. But then when you're buying stuff and you go in there and you're sitting at the restaurants and you're drinking, you know, in the bars and stuff like that, it goes a long way. And I always keep 20% off codes in my purse, sometimes samples, and a business card. So when I'm out and people find out, oh, I'm the CannaBossLady, I'm like, here's 20% off, here's a business card. That's how you're gonna get boots on the ground, get the traffic in your door. You know that we can't advertise, we have all these regulations around advertising. So, you know, that's right there, you know, an easy way to do it without spending a lot of money. Also your newsletter, and what else? The newsletter and, you know, of course, and then if you have opted out towns, going into those towns and joining their chambers and their events and being out there with them, because now that I have delivery, I just got delivery in December, I have Milburn, Short Hills, Summit, Chatham, Livingston, all ordering from me because I deliver now, and they all were towns around Maplewood and Essex County or South Orange that don't have cannabis businesses in there.
One of the things that I found that has been really helpful, especially before you can get started, before you can build your cannabis brand, you may not have a dispensary that's open. One of the things that I really focused on a lot was building my personal brand. And as I was building that personal brand, telling my story of, you know, going through everything in the industry, people come to identify with that, and I think it's flowed into like the brand of the store, because I think people being able to identify like there's an actual person that like this company belongs to, this business, versus it being a company. I think resonates really well with people. I know people come into my dispensary all the time and they'll see me right there and they'll look and be like, oh, I read about you and such and such. So it really means a lot that they're like right there. No shots. They're like, I don't ever walk into a Zen Leaf and see or know who that is or anything, right? So I think being able to like personalize your brand and do it that way was really important. But also today, although we can't do a lot of traditional advertising, there's so many different things. Being super active on social media, I think, is a given. Every platform developing, like, what is your, and I don't know if you guys don't follow somebody like Gary Vee, like that was somebody like in 2018 where it was super helpful for me, because it's talking about like how you're building that, how you're actually building that brand is so critical. And like the way you do it for LinkedIn is not the same post you make on Facebook. It's not the same post you make on Instagram, but it can be the same content, right? You're just breaking it down, doing it a different type of way. For me also, I rewind the clock back to like 2019. I got to know a lot of people in the industry, or a lot of people got to know me because I started a podcast, right? And so through that podcast, I ended up having listeners and people all over the country. And it's like, now you know Tahir, and it's by the time I make Simply Pure, you already know, oh, this is Tahir with the podcast, or this is Tahir that was doing advocacy. So the other thing that I'll say is you can often find things that will advance your business through service, right? Like, it's not always doing something like what is going to, like, how many dollars and cents am I going to get out of this? But through serving, you can also like cast a wider net and get to grow, because again, I think most of the relationships that I built that helped me in the business all became because I was trying to help advance social equity in a way that didn't necessarily benefit me at the time, but now those same relationships are the same people that I call on in business, and it helps out a lot. So I think by giving back, in your community, and also amongst like the broader community of people like in the industry, also helps a long way too. Because best believe that that grower or that person that was trying to get a dispensary license or whatever, like 2 years ago, when you meet them and you're back at the conference and that person's, oh, I'm the first grower, this and that, right? They remember, like y'all came up together. So all of that stuff means a lot. Relationships, I'll say, is big too.
Yeah, I think great points from everybody here on the panel. Certainly things that I've experienced as well. So going into the opening, for me, and I just jotted down a couple of notes here, is that if you can, write your own application, because you need to know the regulations inside and out. And even if you plan on building an organization with multiple layers and you plan to have somebody else running your shop, you need to know the regulations inside and out. Like Tahir said, you got to be able to stay on top of things and step in, whether it's scrubbing a toilet or, manually adjusting somebody's loyalty points. You got to be involved. In terms of advertising pre-open, hey, listen, it's guerrilla marketing, right? We're all limited. However, one piece of advice that I would give to you is when you're putting together you need to put together a really robust spreadsheet. And you need to look at, what are my towns within a 20-minute drive? What other dispensaries are there? How many males? How many females? Where are the colleges, right? And then you should plug in what you anticipate based on a percentage that could be consumers, right? And then you need to put, here's what I think I can do, and then do a second model that's 75% less. And make sure you can cover your fixed operating expenses at 75% less than what you originally forecasted. It is key. And while you're gathering that information, someone early on said to me, I was talking to somebody, a marketer, and they said, you can't be a Dunkin' and you can't be a Starbucks. You need to pick which one you are. And my answer is, you know what? People go into a Dunkin' and a Starbucks for the same thing, coffee, right? So you can be both. And who you are and how, customer experience is different for everybody, right? So focus on what's around you. Focus on the customer experience that demographic yearns for. And in terms of marketing, you could spend a whole lot on an ad, a print ad. Flyers are great, all that kind of stuff, but you're throwing a really wide net, right? So what do cannabis consumers do? Where do they go? That's perhaps where you should focus your marketing and advertising.
I love that. I'll add to that and rep the agency side on the marketing. When we're talking about the restrictions that you'll encounter or that you are encountering on marketing a dispensary, there's two areas that you can really impact because you are a brick and mortar location. So SEO, local, technical. Think about how folks are finding you if you're newly opened or about to open, and they're probably searching a keyword phrase, dispensary near me. So we know on that side, who are the dispensaries that pop up? The other thing about that is we'll talk into loyalty and customer retention as a secondary channel as far as growing your business. But I want to bring it back to your marketing and sales tech stack and the importance of taking the time to vet platforms, know where you're going, demo, look at everything that it takes, because that's an essential part, will be an essential part of your business. So Kris, give us some information on the value of digging into some of those platforms.
Yeah, you bet. I mean, it's a huge decision, right? There's a lot riding on picking the right platforms for these, and so you really want to get an early start on that. 3 months before you open, you should be like really thinking about what's my tech stack going to be, right? Once you've got your sort of like your layout of how you're going to be running your business, what's important to you, you can start to make those decisions. And so demo a bunch of the platforms, make sure that and really the things that you should be focused on there are a partnership. So like, is this somebody who I think that I can grow with as my business succeeds, as my business grows? Can this platform be flexible and change with me? And so, if maybe today you have a single location and you're not expecting a ton of volume, but like down the road, you open a second location. Do we have multi-location support? And we're gonna have the ability to manage, multiple employees inside of that and be able to deal with like the permissioning and things that come with that. Some of the decisions that you make are really sticky, right? So you gotta be careful about, like, point of sale is obviously one that's a huge decision. That's the operating system of your entire platform, right? That's the home of all your customer data, all your sales data. And so that decision is huge. And then other ones you can plug and play easily. And so when you're making your decision about point of sale specifically, you want to make sure that integration is available. What partnerships are out there? Do I have an open API? Do I have access to my own data so that I can add other pieces on down the road? The biggest thing I would say is, you talked about customers and loyalty programs, make sure you're doing that data capture day one, right? So like we're very lucky in this industry because we're getting more data about our consumers than any other retail business, right? You're walking in the door, I know everything about you, your age, where you're from, all these other things. Make sure you're collecting all that data and doing something with it. And so make sure you're taking in people's phone numbers and email addresses if you can get them, asking for their consent to market to them, enrolling them in your loyalty program early, and then building up that consumer base. And then just make sure your tech stack is giving you the right tools to be able to segment those customers and figure out who they are, where are they coming from, what are they spending, what are they buying, and use that data to continue to enhance it. You open your doors with a certain set of products, a certain set of customers. You want to make sure that you're really leveraging the data that's coming out of that point of sale to be able to now enhance where am I making the most money, what am I selling, and make sure that you're getting the right product selection and you're marketing to your customers successfully.
I'd also say it's such a sweet / rich community of New Jersey operators, especially at this event too. So if you've demoed or you have friends or colleagues who have doors open and asking what they're leveraging, what's been working, what they liked or what they didn't like about the different platforms, I can tell you about Kris's platform because we demo it as an agency. When folks are opening their doors, we know that the integration with other platforms is seamless. We know that these guys focus on innovation, and we know that their price point is palatable. The other thing I'll say, though, is you can leverage folks, like us, like Hybrid. We invest a lot in tools like Placer AI, which uses cell phone data. So I can plug in your dispensary or the dispensaries around you, and we can see how much foot traffic is coming in the door at what rate over a given period of time. It's super pricey for us, but we have a lot of dispensary clients. So I'm happy to answer questions on like, hey, I'm seeing my doors are open. I'm seeing a lot of churn. Can you help give us some insight on why this is? So also I'll just say tap into your network, and of course we don't want each other to see one another as competitors, because if we're growing cannabis in a positive way in this state and beyond, it's really better for everybody else. So that's my only plug as far as sharing. Yeah,
one
go
other
for it.
quick thing is, like, I see a lot of people make the mistake of trying to be cheap on software, right? You save a couple $100 a month on your software platform, but then it costs you in headcount, lost data, like lost sales. And so like be careful about, hey, I saved $100 a month, but then what did you lose out the other side?
Well, I think when we did a pre-panel discussion, Jill had a good point when we were talking about platforms and gathering cell phone data, and I'll let you speak for yourself here. But as far as understanding your customer and what is palatable to them is also important. Do you want to dig in?
Well, a majority of my clientele are women over 40 that are career moms and so on and so forth. And when I opened my CBD shop, I tried the text marketing situation, and boy, did I get a bunch of moms running into my shop? Don't you ever text anything about the CannaBossLady? My kids are on my phone. So know your audience, know your customers, and so I'm not doing that in the dispensary because I know that my clientele does not want that. If you are gonna do that, you make it, because I know that at another dispensary, I get their text messages, and I think they caught on to this too, because they used to be like 20% off, this and that, whatever. Now it's, so-and-so has a message for you, and then you click a link, and then it goes into their sales. So maybe take that model, or just make sure that you talk to your customers, let them know that they can opt out, and so on and so forth.
And Tahir, I'll say that you're one of those folks who are definitely doing the guerrilla marketing. You were just sharing a story earlier today. How are you better understanding your customers so that you're delivering something to them that you know that they want?
Sure. So I definitely think that was a great point that she made about knowing your customers. And one of the things that I try to do, I really try to reach my customers every way that I can, right? So I'm doing physical marketing, like I go pass out flyers. The other day I was in the store, it was like one of those first days it was getting warm. I went out to the shopping center, passed out flyers, and 5 people came in the store that day. I'm really investing a lot in our digital marketing. Trying to make sure that we're doing not only having a strong SEO platform, but also as well as like programmatic ads. I have my web developer that helps me with everything here, but like really capturing data, like it's crazy. Like we can capture data about our customers, turn around and market back to them. People that visited other dispensaries and market to them as well, right? Like things like that. For me, the text messages and things, I found it really works. I have customers excited, like being like, oh, I got I got this deal. And then like you send out a message and you literally see the things that you send out the messages about, people really come in and buy it when it's deals. So I found that, but also in the way that she recommended in terms of where it's not like just sending a message to their phone. At least the way I understand it, if you do it that way, it's not compliant anyway. So I think compliance is another part that's really important with your business as well, because you can do all this to build all these systems, and it's like if you don't post on Instagram the right way, you could have thousands of followers and they take it, right? Same thing with these text messages platforms. If you could have thousands of text messages in your database, but if you don't send a message in the right type of way that's compliant, the text message doesn't go through. Emails, same thing. If you don't send it the right way, they're going to bounce back. So you have to really understand how to use these tools. And I think the importance of even having data, like what products are people selling, what price point are they selling them at? It's important to make those types of investments so that you can know your market, and even I have data on what was the most popular vape that women between a certain age were buying. Like I can tell you that and be actionable on it. So right now as we're growing, really just trying to even grow our, grow the different people. I think now and being open 7 months, like I have like 10,000 emails. I have like 1,000 people that have already downloaded my app that we can market to directly, a few thousand text messages. So we just keep growing that every day. And I think making sure you train your team to do that. Like the loyalty program is huge, right? Because if you can keep customers keep coming back into your store, I think that's really important and really critical. So making sure that you're asking customers for their information, their data. Where did you, I think even knowing where did you get the customer from? Because now that so that you can double down on the things that are working. So that's one of the things I'm trying to really work on my team now. When a new customer comes in, how did you hear about us? Did you get an ad on your phone? Was it a Google search? Was it my buddy down the street told me? Did you see the billboard? So that way we can make sure that we're investing in things properly, and the stuff that's not working, we don't keep doing it. So.
All good points. I agree 100%. Data is key. I was helping out a dispensary. They were opening in a month, and slow start, like many of the independents, right? We did not have the benefit, the independence of all the press that went out on 4/21/22. We didn't get that, right? So, it's a struggle. And so data is key. Know your audience. Know what is a good customer experience. I just wanted to throw out I know we have to wrap up. But, and again, this isn't exact numbers. It's just from Lit Alerts. If you guys don't know what Lit Alerts is, find out today. But of the operators that they track, there's 153 independent dispensaries operating in the state. Of the independents, 34 ATCs that converted. So these are large companies. They trade on the Canadian market. Their balance sheets are a wreck, with the exception of one. And they have refinanced at 12%. I mean, it's like a hard money loan. So 34 of them. So that's 82% of the stores in the state of New Jersey independent. 18 were converted ADCs that expanded. The independents make up 61% of the revenue over the last 3 months. 148 million. MSOs, 95 million. However, proportionately, the sales per store for independents over the last 3 months were 970, I don't know, 1,000? More than that. Maybe 970 million, I don't know, I'm not an accountant. So MSOs average per day, 2.8. Stores on average across both, 1.3. So independents are 26% below the sales on average per day. And the multi-state operators are tracking 115% over the average. Okay? So that is the reality. And if you're not going into this, if you're going into this business thinking you're going to print money, you're going to be you're in for a rude awakening. Okay? We got to support the independents. We have to have cash on hand to support the new growers and the processors that need that money to stay open. We have to work together. And there's a lot of predatory marketers, banks, whatever. Make sure that you know your business inside out. Make sure you know the regulations inside out. Make sure you're ready to pivot on a dime. You have to be super nimble and innovate, innovate, innovate. That would be my advice.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
We have to wrap up here, Jen.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Take the time to build your strategy. Take the time to build your blueprint. Take the time to follow these guys on LinkedIn and keep the conversation going.